and nobody getting hurt. Like, you obviously don't want to
Right.
see people get hurt if you can. But that actually brings up another segue, or not even a segue, not even a transition, another topic or tangent. That's what I'm looking for. But in the Bears Chiefs game,
Yeah.
Mahomes twisted his ankle. I think it was the same ankle that he hurt last year during their playoff run.
Yep.
And it's what, 34-0 at halftime? And he comes out there after the half, and I'm like, why is he out here? This is a situation where this is your guy. The Bears are not coming back from 34 down. I can guarantee you that. I don't have to be a coach to know this. I'm just watching this football team not be able to do anything for 3 weeks. And I was like, why is Mahomes out there? And I don't think he was in there for all that much longer, but it goes to your point of trying to score as much as possible. I get that, but it seemed kind of unnecessary to me. I wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
So I don't know why they left him in the game. I would have taken him out, but if I had to guess, I would say that he wanted to stay in just to demonstrate the injury wasn't that serious, right? Like it probably hurt a lot, but there probably wasn't any structural damage done. And he just wanted to show everybody, like, hey, I'm fine. I'll be playing next week when we go to the Jets on Sunday night. There's not an issue here. And just show everybody that. And then he left the game after he was able to display that. So that's conjecture on my part, but it's about the only thing I can think of that'd be a reasonable reason why they would do that.
Yeah, and Andy Reid gets a pass because he's obviously a good head coach. I mean, he's a multiple-time Super Bowl winner, and
Yes.
I watched the quarterback documentary, and it's obvious that he and Mahomes are very much on the same page with things, and so I guess you have that relationship. You give Mahomes a little bit of leeway, and maybe you're right to show that, hey, we're okay. And I think they march right down the field and score too, right?
I've thought of something. Did he hurt his ankle before Travis Kelsey got his touchdown?
I don't know. That's a good point,
Because if
and
he did, he stayed in to get his boy that touchdown in front of Taylor Swift.
So I listened to you guys this morning and I heard you talking about it. Now, I just want to be clear. When I say this, I understand the nuances and points that are made elsewhere, but like I couldn't have cared less about Taylor Swift being at that game. However, from a ratings perspective, from the NFL's perspective, all the business side of it, that was about the best thing that could have happened to the NFL.
Yeah. So as a person who likes Taylor Swift's music, I thought it was fantastic that she was there. They're getting all the hoopla, all the hype. And even more than that, she is the most famous person in the world right now who's like not a politician.
Or Messi, maybe, or Ronaldo. I don't know. What do you think?
No, because they're not famous in the United States, and we got 350 million people. So I bet the like if you showed a picture of Cristiano Ronaldo in the United States, people aren't going to know who that is, much less than Taylor Swift. And if they're even somewhat equal everywhere else, that's going to give the edge to Taylor. So I think the soccer players are interesting, but because Taylor's so popular here, that gives her the edge. And so I think that just having her be there and the interest it creates from her fans coming in, seeing the sport, seeing the games, wanting to watch the games, maybe not give their partners as much grief about wanting to watch the games, that sort of thing, I thought was fantastic. Also, I like Taylor Swift, so I thought that was really cool as well.
Yeah, I don't really have a feeling either way. And Taylor Swift, like that wasn't why. It just felt like they constantly were showing her. And I thought, I mean, it's cool that she's there, but like how much are we getting from that? But as I thought about it as the game kind of went on, I realized, I mean, this is just amazing for the NFL because
Yeah.
the NFL's goal at the end of the day is as many eyes on the product as possible because it's as
Yes.
many dollars that are coming in behind the shield. And that's what they're getting. But I'll give you even another anecdote on this. It's affecting another market right now because Taylor Swift was pictured wearing this one type of New Balance shoe that isn't even remotely popular. But now it's remotely popular to the point that New Balance is sold out of them. And it's just a generic sort of New Balance shoe that I think it's the 550 is the model, and you can look it up. And now it's sold out. People are just flocking to it. And I'm just curious as to when these two Venn diagrams are going to come together. And then all the people that are Taylor Swift fans who then realize they have no appetite for football are like, I'm out. Like I'm out of this for good. Or do you think that it will have some overlap and people will say, football really isn't that bad?
So I think that if, let's say, every Taylor Swift fan, every Swiftie in the United States watches the next four Chiefs games while this is all super hyped up and whatever, right? If 0.1% of them are retained as NFL fans, that's going to be like 1.5 million people
Yeah.
that they would add. So just, I mean, I would love to get Iceman and Coach and political football in front of that audience and them to tell me 0.01% of people are going to continue listening, are going to subscribe. It'd be like, goodbye, day job. This is what we're doing from now on, right? So,
I made that point. I don't know if you remember, again, another peek behind the curtain, but we had that one show that was a part of the network, and they had a TikToker on their show who had 10 million followers, and they did not do any sort of promotion of it in any way. And when we confronted them about it, I say confront, but it was more like ask them about it. They're like, we didn't even think about it. And I put those exact numbers in front of them. You have 10 million people. If you get 0.1% of those people to stick around, here's how many new subscribers you have to your content. This is what you just missed out on.
yeah,
And it was like 1,000 people or something like that. And it's like,
right.
oh, I didn't realize that. Well, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing and you're doing what you're doing, because this is the missed opportunity that you have. And it extends to anything. The NFL obviously is just fine. Does it need those 1.5 million people? Probably not. It would probably be just fine without them. But does it welcome them with open arms? You bet.
I actually disagree with that. I think it does need them because they're more, those people are more likely to be younger than the average football fan and more female than the average football fan. And
Good
so
point.
increasing across those two demographics would be huge for the NFL, right? It's like Taylor Swift is bringing in a bunch of middle-aged dudes, right?
No.
Because we're already watching the NFL anyways, right? It's the people that she would bring to the sport don't fit the demographics generally that are currently watching the sport, and that would be huge for them. And baseball would love to get a million new young people watching.
The average age of a baseball viewer right now is like 65, so they definitely need the help. But do you really think that the NFL has an age problem with its prime demographic, or at least its prime viewer?
I think anything that is primarily distributed on main old school television has an age problem. I don't know that like people being born today are going to sit and watch NBC for 3 hours to watch a football game. They'll be like, I will just catch the 13-minute YouTube clip. That's all I need, and I'm out. So,
Fascinating thought. And
yeah,
I thought that I was breaking the mold by watching Red Zone. What I realized is that I'm even older because I will sit there for 7 hours of commercial free football, and not 3 hours sounds reasonable in that regard. But I think you're right. I mean, even Major League Baseball, if you have the MLB TV package, they have condensed games that are down to 8 minutes. A
oh,
baseball
amazing.
game in 8 minutes, which is amazing. I mean, I was able to hack somebody's or share it with them, and I was watching like 3 games a morning. It was terrific. And I'm like, there's no way I could do this. I could not watch a full baseball game anymore. And I never thought that the NFL would find themselves in that position, because the NFL seems like this juggernaut that just keeps rolling and has nothing to stop them.
The other thing too for the NFL is that it's going to turn to be like the NBA as not even Zoomers, because Zoomers are now into their 20s, but Generation Alpha coming behind them because of social media, because of being able to see all the games everywhere. People won't be as much fans of teams as they will players.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so having somebody sit and watch an entire game because you're watching your team is different. If you like a player, you just need to see what that player did. You don't need to see what the team did, right? And so if that continues to be the case, we're not going to have people sitting and watching 3 hour long football games or even watching the red zone because all they want to see is what Lamar Jackson is doing or Patrick Mahomes is doing, right? And that's going to get worse and worse. As like I said, people being born today, it's hard to think about that, but we're only 20 years from them being like the target audience.
Yeah, that's very true. And
Right.
20 years from us being old people doing radio shows, we're going to look like absolute idiots doing old school AM radio, which
Yeah.
is essentially what we're doing. So that's a good point, though. I mean, I guess people are more focused on players, fantasy, DFS, all that stuff. It makes people think more about the individuals. And
Mhm.
I guess to an extent, me, you, Cleve, Scott, we're kind of in that boat too, because we watch the entirety of the NFL. We watch Red Zone, and it's less about our teams. Like my dad will ask me, "Did you watch the Patriots game?" And I'm like, "Kind of," because I watched the highlights or whatever was shown on Red Zone. And
Right.
that fandom to me has waned a little bit because of the presentation of that product. But I didn't think of it even in a hyper sense of it being even, they just want to go find Lamar Jackson's stat line and
Yep.
Lamar Jackson's highlight clip, which is like a minute and a half.
Right. Well, it used to be that your connection to the league was your connection through your team, right? You could only connect with the team in general, but through social media, you can now connect with individuals. So you can follow Lamar Jackson, for example, on every platform and just be a Lamar Jackson fan without being a Ravens fan. You don't know anything about the rest of the Ravens to be a Lamar Jackson fan to know what's going on with Lamar Jackson, what he's doing, what he's promoting, that sort of thing. And so, as this continues to become the norm, people won't be as much fans of teams. If you're not a fan of a team, you're not sitting and watching the whole thing.